As many. The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Barnabas.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. That's fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Sorry? My good friend from Pinewood. Mr. Deputy, I rise on behalf of the good people of the constituency of St. Barnabas. Grateful to Almighty God to live, as I always say, in the greatest country in the world, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Grateful for another opportunity to try to be a better husband, a better father, a better citizen of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to stand to contribute in this debate. Before I get into a few matters relating to this resolution, I just wish, Mr. Deputy, to highlight a few things. Mr. Deputy, a few weekends ago, our Carifta teams, swimming and track and field, would have shown the region and the world how we continue to mark the manner of our bearing, and would have put in incredible performance, both in swimming and track and field, and combined in that week would have succeeded in securing 126 medals among CARICOM countries. And our team should be celebrated for that and commended for how they continue to make us proud. Also, Mr. Deputy, as we debate this resolution, I'm minded of the fact that these issues, as it relates to human rights, we have been on a parallel journey, if you will, Mr. Deputy, as we perfect the Commonwealth of the Bahamas in our 50th year. We've been running a parallel journey to enhance the protections and enforcement of human rights. And all of the members that have spoken already would have given valuable contributions, diverse but valuable contributions on the magnitude, the necessity, and the significance of what we are here to do today. Mr. Deputy, one of the aspects of human rights, and the member from Freetown talked about it, and it was sown through the various contributions so far, is the right in terms of security of persons. And so as we deliberate here today, I would humbly submit to all of us to definitely not look at this in any kind of isolation, but in the broad aspect of 50 years of independence, who we've been as a country, and where it is that we seek to go in the next 50 years and beyond, as we continue to craft the contours of what we hear from the Bahamian people, who we want to be. Because the truth is, as we talk about human rights and the various issues that emanate from the whole discussion of human rights, and that may even emanate from this discussion today, it will give us the opportunity to deal with a number of issues, issues of sovereignty, and those, quite frankly, oftentimes possible irreconcilable tensions that may exist between sovereignty and human rights. Mr. Deputy, I recalled, for example, in 2001, the Australian government, just to highlight this aspect of the tension between sovereignty and human rights. The Australian government had what they called a processing center on a separate island to process asylum seekers and so forth. And the government contended that it was their sovereign right to protect its borders and how that processing should occur. But there were those who felt that the way in which the Australian government was doing it was violating the human rights of those asylum seekers. So we know in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas the challenges that we have with illegal immigration and what the Bahamian people and we as a government, regardless of party, our views on the illegal immigration issue in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that we've been dealing with for decades, and the natural tension that exists with what we desire for ourselves, what we desire in the form of self-determination, and what global bodies may feel the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the Bahamas government, irrespective of party, should be doing. And so that is an example, and that's a real issue and a live issue, as we know that we have all been contending with. So as we think about this necessary resolution and this select committee, being mindful that there is going to be a number of issues, discussions, justifiably so, that will emanate from this resolution. I believe that the Bahamian people, as they watch us here today, they don't hear necessarily the bantering and the jostling that happens in here. And that's not necessarily a bad thing that's happened over the decades. This is a body of debating and making your points. But I do think today there's a solemnity that has placed itself in the body of this parliament here this morning, as it should be, because the magnitude of the issues that impact the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas as it relates to human rights and the discussions that will ensue from what we do here today, quite frankly, issues that we may have avoided for different reasons, be it political, be it that just not wanting to have that discussion at that time. There is no doubt in the Bahamian people's eyes that those discussions will come. And this body and other bodies will be called upon to make decisions that impact the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the Bahamian people in a real significant way. And this, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, Mr. Deputy, this issue of oftentimes irreconcilable tensions between human rights and state sovereignty, is something that I believe that when this committee is formed, they will begin to deal with, front and center. Because as we all know, the issue of state sovereignty, resident in that is the beliefs, the values, the culture of a people, and how that is applied and how that is executed in our sovereign standing. And so the natural tensions that will exist about who we want to be, who we ought to be as a people, and some of the, again, tensions, to use that word, tensions that will exist, and how we litigate that, how we ventilate some of these issues, because at the end of the day, for example, there will be discussions with the Bahamian people, and we will hear from the Bahamian people as it relates to these issues that the committee will deal with. And we will hear from the Bahamian people through possibly referendums and elections. And it is our duty to hear what the Bahamian people have to say and to reconcile what may be expected of us from a global standpoint and what the Bahamian people decide that they want. The Bahamian people decide what they want for themselves. Mr. Deputy, as I look at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that the good member from Freetown would have started off with, and a number of other members would have pointed out, you know, no doubt as you read through the articles, it essentially reminds us that all of these articles and the human rights that they give a view on and that they articulate continues to be things that we deal with on a daily basis here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas in terms of how do we enhance protections, how do we enhance enforcements of individual rights, human rights in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And just on this note, Mr. Deputy, and I am going to try my best, and I will attempt very aggressively to strip away all politics from my body right now to make a statement on a particular issue that is in the framework of human rights. And I will try my best, and hopefully my colleagues on the other side would see the purity of my intent, Mr. Deputy. And that is, as we talk about, you know, security of person and the right of any person not to experience, you know, any violence. But I'm talking specifically about the state of crime in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And let me just say this, and I wish the Prime Minister were here, the member for Cat Island, Rum Kingston, Salvador, but I'm sure he will hear this. We have a problem here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas as it relates to crime. This is not a moment about blaming the National Security Minister. And I may even take some blows for that from supporters of my party who feel that, you know, rough the minister up. But I stand here as a Bahamian, and we have to accept that the state of crime in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is at an unacceptable level. And it has been at an unacceptable level through past administrations. So let's get that out of the way. This isn't a PLP problem or F&M problem. And so when I say I wish the Prime Minister was here, because I would want to say to the Prime Minister, to appeal to the Prime Minister, to let us come together. Let us come together as legislators, as a country, law enforcement, civic society, civil leaders, civic society, church-based organizations. Let us come together. We've just had 10 murders in 12 days. As we sit here today, that cannot be acceptable to any of us. It cannot be acceptable to the Bahamian people that is something that should be all right. Whether that was during a Progressive Liberal Party administration or a Free National Movement administration. We are not helpless to deal with the issue of crime in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We are not. We are not. We are courageous, intelligent people. I always say the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is an incubator of purpose and talent We are not helpless, but we must come together. We must come together and deal with this issue in a real way. This can't be the Commonwealth of the Bahamas where daily, like I said, 10 murders in 12 days. And yes, the easy political thing to do would be to blame the member for Freetown. You know? That would be the easy thing to do. But I say very, very sincerely. I say very sincerely. No, I've never blamed the member for Freetown. I believe I've said, and we have said, the opposition has just said, that we feel that the government should lead in bringing us together, and I still stand by that. But I would never suggest that the problem of people being murdered put at the feet of the member of Freetown or the government. My parents wouldn't be proud of that. I don't even think my children would be proud of me to make such a statement. We've just asked the government to lead, to bring us all together to deal with this issue. So, Mr. Deputy, I just thought it was just very, very important to say that today, because again, this, we all can agree, is totally unacceptable, and we cannot continue to come in this house every Wednesday, or whichever day we come in here, and as these numbers climb and the situation gets worse, and we don't try to make a significant progress on this issue. Mr. Deputy, and I will add to that, that in this 50th year of independence, and even as we debate this resolution, let us not fall into the trap of just saying that this is an isolated debate for a stretch of time or a series of weeks and months. But let what we're doing in here today inform the direction that we want to put the Commonwealth of the Bahamas on in the next 50 years, and beyond. I think about it every day, Mr. Deputy. And I'm fortunate now to I've spent 46 years on this earth, and that may be 46 years old now may be considered midlife. Who knows if God will grant me another 46 years. So daily I think about, like many of you, I think about my mortality. And, I say to myself, what kind of country do I want to leave for my grandkids, for my great-grandkids? And then I say to myself, as we all do, I'm sure, I say, well, you're in the position now where you're a member of parliament, been reelected. What will be your legacy? What will be our legacy in terms of what we are trying to create? And I am not diminishing the efforts that have been put forth so far by our forefathers, and even all members here, particularly members who have been here a long time, like the member for Angliston, who's been here now a very, very long time. 5, yes, 5. But I just say to say that I believe that we are in a moment where we can let us elevate the debate on what the Bahamian people and what a greater Bahamas looks like, what a more prosperous Bahamas looks like. We will find enough issues that we have philosophical differences on. We will find those issues, but I believe that we ought to do it in a way that's respectful. I always say that I don't believe in attacking anybody personally. This is about attacking policies. I believe that there are great people on the other side. I just believe that they assign themselves to some bad policies, and they may say the opposite as well. But as it relates to this continuing resolution, another matter I wish to speak to, Mr. Deputy, that as we get into a vigorous debate on some of these issues, like I said, where there are irreconcilable differences or thorny issues between sovereignty of state and human rights. What I want us to be sure to do is to not shy away from what we believe we are and who we believe we are as a people, what the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas want the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to be, while understanding that we have our, as the resolution says, global global obligations, and so forth. Because a lot of the conversations that's happening globally, or tends to happen, is that when there is a determination by some that this is a principle that we want countries to sign on to, that this is a principle we believe that countries should embrace. The minute that there is dialogue in that sovereign state about a particular issue, that particular issue, there is sometimes an unfortunate move to brand that sovereign state because of that issue as taking a diminished position, as taking in certain countries, they view that those countries take draconian position. My point is that there must be an approach of a level of respect for the sovereignty of all peoples, and I trust and hope that should we get into those types of conversations where we ask the Bahamian people, what is their view, whether in some formal way to referendum, or just hearing public discourse on issues, we take that into account and understand that we should not be apologetic for what it is that our people may want for us to be. And I, for one, as a parliamentarian, would push back on any movement where it is said to the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that because you are litigating the issue in this way, and these are the views of the people as if we are some banana republic or some backward country. My point is that what is interesting, Mr. Deputy, and let me just illustrate my point this way. The Democrats and the Republicans in the United States of America have different philosophical views. And on a number of issues, social issues and otherwise, they have a difference of opinion. And depending on which administration, which president from which party, depending on the president or the party, those issues are dealt with in different ways. Obviously, that's what governance is all about. Elections have meaning, and they implement their policies based on the fact that they were elected, and the people know that they have this particular philosophical view. But even when, for example, you have a Republican administration that may have a view about certain social issues, one thing is never said, that even as they go back and forth on those issues, it's never said that the United States of America is less diminished, or that the United States of America is this pariah country somewhere in the world. The point that I'm making is that at the end of the day, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas will and ought to determine what it wants for its people through the voices of the people. And while those tensions may exist with some of the discussions happening around the world, we are no different from any other country where our people tell us what they want for themselves. All right? There's diversity in the world, and which means that every country has the ability to decide how that diversity is applied in its legislation, in its national politics, and no doubt its position globally. So as I wrap up, Mr. Deputy, I believe that this is an important resolution. I believe that as the member for Golden Gates would have shared, just a number of issues to the importance to the continued development of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. But I do emphasize, Mr. Deputy, that let us be prepared for the discussions that will ensue from this resolution today and as the weeks and months go on to ensure that we litigate these issues and that will exist between the sovereignty of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and even the human rights discussions. Let us do it in a way that is respectful, that is thoughtful, that is diligent, but that makes no doubt that the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and what we ought to be and who we ought to be as a people will be decided by the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy.
Thank you, Honorable Member.